Wonderful. Well, hello everyone. My name is Connor Asher from Creventive Puppet Company, and I'm so pleased to be live with you all today. Today, I thought I'd come on briefly and just do a little demonstration of moving mouth puppets and how they work and how they are operated. You may have seen a few puppets that I've shared today through this page in the last few days. One of which was a bag puppet, and one of which was a moving mouth puppet, or a hand and rod puppet. So let me start here today. You guys, if there is anyone here, please feel free to ask questions throughout this, and I'd be happy to answer them. I'm hoping to do more things like this. This is kind of a feeler to see how everyone enjoys this kind of setup, and if people like it, hopefully we'll do some more. Hello, Lindsay. Great. So let's bring on the first puppet here. So this first puppet is called a hand and rod puppet, as many of you know. So why it's called a hand puppet or moving mouth puppet is because one of my hands is inside of the puppet, and anytime I open and close my hand just like that, that's how the puppet is operated. And then there's these two rods here, or sticks, some people like to call them, and those go into the hands, and those operate the hands. So I can use them both together. If I had a second puppeteer, I could have them assist with more complex movements. This is all practice. The more you practice, the better you'll get. So right now inside my hand, inside the head, that's how the mouth works. Some of the simple exercises. So if you guys have hand puppets at home, or if you don't, something you can do to practice this is just by lip syncing. So anytime your mouth opens, the mouth of the puppet opens. Things that you want to keep in mind. So you want to keep. So you're going to take your first off. You're going to take your dominance hand. That's the hand that you write with or draw with, and that's going to be your puppet hand. From there, you're going to take the tops of your fingers, put them all together, and then your thumb is going to move down, and your thumb is going to be the jaw of your puppet. Now with this, so like I said, anytime your mouth opens, the mouth of your puppet opens, just like that. And this is all something you want to practice. Something in addition to that you always want to try to keep in mind when manipulating a puppet like this is that you don't want your hand to go up like that. You want to try to keep the top of your fingers as still as possible, just to move the thumb, because the whole idea is to make the puppet look as real as possible, just like how we talk as people. So when we talk as people, we don't talk like this. We talk like this. We look, we're able to engage directly into the cameras. We're able to engage with another person or another character. And that's the same kind of thing we want to do with a puppet. So with that, there's multiple ways to do that. That's one, just practice. And two, something I always tell people, pretend like you're throwing apples, or pretend like you're pitching a baseball, just very softly, like just throw it out. There's that. A lot of people call that the Henson punch, and you punch out like that. So we'll try that again with a puppet on to show what that looks like. So with here, so this is same thing, keeping just the thumb moving and trying to keep the top of your hand still. So with that, I can have the puppet look directly into camera. I can have the puppet look left. I can look right. And something many of you will know if you work with a television monitor, which is what many television puppeteers work with, that the camera is reversed and flipped. So my left is actually the right, and the right is the left, and that's something, once again, the more you practice, the better you'll get, and it'll become second nature over time. But that is all for this guy. Like I said, I'm going to keep this brief and simple. I'm going to do something where we talk a lot more in depth about how these puppets can be moved and operated. We're going to talk about walking, We're going to talk about very specific movements, how to really get into operating the arm rods, and just different techniques that you can do. So when you put it all together, you can get something like this. But once again, all practice. And for those of you who are just joining, please feel free to ask questions. I'm going to show you one more puppet while we're here today, and then if there are any questions, I will answer them after we're done here. So, this is the second puppet you may have seen me share on my feed. This puppet is called a live hand puppet, or a bag puppet, sack puppet, some people call it as well. Reason why this is the there's no foam structure in the body. It's all kind of just essentially a bag. And once again, there's many different television puppets, but today we're just going to talk about these two, which are very commonly used Muppet style characters. So how this puppet works, ideally you always want two puppeteers to operate this style of puppet. The lead puppeteer, main puppeteer, is generally operating the head. So just like this right now, kind of a skeleton. One of my hands, my dominant hand, is inside of the head. And with that, that controls the mouth. So with that, I can open and close, and talk just like that. And there is my second hand. So what can my second hand do? So typically it can be done in a variety of different ways. One way to generally do it is the lead puppeteer's hand is inside the head, like we talked about. And then their hand operates the left hand of the character. And with this, also known as a practical hand puppet, it's because these puppets are able to pick up and manipulate objects. Your hand is in there just like a glove. And that's one of the really great uses, because you can get really powerful gestures. They can pick things up, and they can do things that the rod puppets cannot do. So that's one way. So one of the puppeteer's hand is inside of the head, and the other hand is inside one of the arms. And you would think of Ernie on Sesame Street and some of those other characters. There's a hand that's not really moving here. How does that hand work? That's where the second puppeteer comes in, where they would right hand a character. So they would, if I had a second puppeteer here, they would help out and help keep this other hand alive, so we could gesture together. And this takes a lot of coordination and practice to really get this type of puppet character down. Another way, so this is the second way that you can do things. So sometimes you keep the main puppeteer inside the head and they operate the mouth. With this, they're able to pass up props sometimes. With your other hand, you're able to hold the script or whatever you can think of. And then the second puppeteer would come in and do both hands. The nice thing about a second puppeteer doing both hands is that they'll always get fluidity. The hands will always kind of know what they're doing, especially if you have a character that's doing a lot. So there was a character with us a few years ago that we did the cooking show, and with the cooking show, we wanted both hands to be able to do that. So we had one puppeteer doing that. Unfortunately, that show never went anywhere. So that is not shown, but other great examples are like the Swedish Chef and many other characters. And it all depends on what you need. Same if you have a character playing piano or playing an instrument, it's really nice to have a second puppeteer that can just do both. Anyway, that's kind of how this puppet works. Once again, it's fairly simple, where hand is inside the head, and then your other hand is operating the whole thing just like that. Keeping the arms alive. I can look right into the camera. I can look left, I can look right, or whichever way you see this at home. And that's kind of how that works. So let me put this puppet away. But that's pretty much how those puppets works. Like I said, today I wanted to keep things fairly simple and just do a little 101 for those of you who are at home and want to get into this style of puppets or want to keep developing and practicing, and share a few of the things that I've learned over the years of doing this. But said, it's all practice, and the more you do it, the better you get. Through this quarantine, I've been able to look at many of my old videos and have laughed how bad some of them were. Anyway, here we go. Let's read some comments here. So, Kenji, how has the pandemic affected puppet shows? So, the pandemic has affected puppet shows in many different ways. It depends on where you are. I think the pandemic has affected live entertainment as a whole, both in theaters and television and film. You see, all the movie theaters are closed. There's no new films that can really be produced. Same with shooting films. It typically takes gathering a large amount of people together, which you can't do. Same with live theater. With our shows in particular, when we go out and perform, our live shows for schools and libraries and camps and festivals, we can't do that anymore because, unfortunately, the crowds are too large and it's just not safe, at least for the time being. And we really hope that changes. But until then, our focus has shifted because that was our bread and butter, and that's gone, just as it is for so many others. Um, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Hello, David. Hi, Lissa. Hi, Kathy. Great. Well, wonderful. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Like I said, this is going to be very brief today. But if you do have any other questions, please feel free to leave them below. Please share, subscribe. The more people know about us, the more we can keep doing this, hopefully. And I hope all of you stay safe and enjoy. And hopefully, we'll have many more things like this coming out soon. Thanks so much.